Most people don't realize it until it's already well underway. You start feeling a little more tired than usual. The stairs feel steeper, the grocery bags feel heavier, and suddenly you find yourself avoiding activities you once enjoyed: gardening, walking long distances, maybe even standing for extended periods. And the sneaky part is, you don't necessarily feel pain. It's not dramatic. It's subtle. It creeps in slowly year after year. That's how muscle loss works in older adults. It's called sarcopenia, and it begins as early as your 30s, accelerating rapidly after 60 if nothing is done to counter it. Now, the reason this is such a critical conversation to have is because most people think this is just normal aging. That losing strength, becoming less mobile, needing help with simple things. That it's all just part of growing old. But what if I told you that's not entirely true? What if I told you that what we've come to accept as inevitable is actually something we can push back against, something we can reverse? The body is an adaptive machine, and that means it listens. It listens to movement. It listens to nutrients. It listens to stress, sleep, sunlight. And when it senses that you've stopped challenging it, when it doesn't get the signals it needs to maintain muscle, it responds exactly how it's designed to, by breaking muscle down. Not to punish you, but because it thinks you don't need it anymore. The phrase "use it or lose it" couldn't be more biologically accurate. This isn't just about muscle aesthetics. This is about survival efficiency. Your body reallocates resources based on demand. No demand, no muscle. It's that simple, and it matters more than we realize. Muscle isn't just about looking strong. It's a metabolic organ. It's your body's largest reservoir for glucose. It helps regulate blood sugar, supports immune function, aids in hormone regulation, and protects against falls and fractures. In fact, low muscle mass in seniors is directly correlated with increased hospitalizations, reduced quality of life, and even premature death. This isn't just about looking better. This is about staying alive longer, living better, and maintaining the independence we all want as we age. So, the silent crisis isn't that muscle is disappearing. It's that no one is talking about it. We talk about blood pressure, we talk about cholesterol, we talk about heart health and memory, but how often does anyone ask, how much muscle are you preserving? That question almost never gets asked, and it should be at the top of the list. Because the truth is, many chronic conditions that plague older adults, type 2 diabetes, frailty, falls, even cognitive decline, have strong associations with low muscle mass. It's not isolated, it's all interconnected, and the longer we ignore it, the harder it becomes to undo. Now, here's where this becomes empowering instead of discouraging. The science is clear. Muscle loss can be reversed even after 60, 70, and 80. But you need to send your body the right signals. You don't need to become a bodybuilder. You don't need to lift heavy weights every day. But you do need to understand that your body is listening, and it responds remarkably well to the smallest consistent inputs. That's the power of biology. It's plastic, which means it can adapt at any age, given the right circumstances. And here's something you might not have heard often enough. Age doesn't disqualify you from progress. It just makes the process more intentional. When you were younger, you could get away with poor habits. You could skip meals, avoid exercise, and bounce back. But now your margin is tighter. So instead of thinking of this phase of life as limiting, think of it as a time for precision. Every decision matters more. Every meal, every walk, every choice to move or rest becomes part of a larger message your body receives. And that message either says, maintain and grow, or shrink and decline. There is no middle ground. You don't have to do this perfectly, no one does, but you do have to do it deliberately. That's the shift. And once you understand the mechanics behind it, once you truly understand that muscle loss is not just a natural result of aging, but a response to inactivity and inadequate nutrition, you stop feeling like a victim of time and start feeling like an active participant in your own health. That mindset shift changes everything. So when you hear people say it's just age, I want you to pause, because that phrase, though common, is often incomplete. Yes, aging brings change, But how much of that change we accept without question is up to us. And once you know that muscle loss is a silent crisis, but not a permanent sentence, you begin to see just how much potential your body still has. That realization is where real transformation begins. When people talk about aging, they usually bring up things like gray hair, wrinkles, or maybe even memory lapses. But hardly anyone talks about muscle, and yet, it's one of the most important assets we have, especially as we grow older. See, muscle isn't just for athletes or people who lift weights. It's not just about being strong enough to open a jar or carry groceries. Muscle is one of the most powerful indicators of long-term health, and in many ways it is the fountain of youth. What people often forget is that muscle is metabolically active tissue. That means it burns energy even when you're not doing anything. The more muscle you have, the more efficiently your body uses calories. And that's not just important for weight management. It directly impacts blood sugar control, hormone balance, and energy levels. In fact, maintaining muscle mass can be one of the most effective ways to prevent insulin resistance, which is a major driver of type 2 diabetes in older adults. And beyond metabolism, muscle plays a central role in physical resilience. Think about it. When a senior falls, what determines whether they get back up easily or end up in the hospital with a fracture? It's not luck, it's not age alone, it's muscle. It's the strength to stabilize, the coordination to react, and the tissue to absorb impact. Muscle is your armor. It cushions the bones, it reinforces balance, and it makes movement safer. And if you're over 60, you need that protection more than ever. There's another layer to this too, something people don't often associate with muscle: confidence. When you lose muscle, you don't just lose strength, you start losing trust in your body. You hesitate to go upstairs. You avoid long walks. You start saying no to things you used to enjoy. That's not just a physical shift, that's a psychological one, and that's where independence starts to erode. But when you rebuild muscle, even just a little bit, you start gaining that trust back. Your steps feel steadier. You sit taller, you move through the world with a sense of control. That's what I mean when I say muscle is the fountain of youth. It keeps you engaged in life, not just present, but participating. And here's the most fascinating part: your body doesn't stop building muscle after 60. That's a myth. Yes, it's harder. Yes, the response is a little slower, but the machinery is still intact. The satellite cells that help regenerate muscle fibers still there, the pathways that respond to movement and protein intake. Still functional, the body's ability to adapt doesn't vanish. It just becomes more selective. It requires more deliberate inputs. And once you start giving your body what it needs: movement, nutrition, recovery, it begins to change, even in your 70s, even in your 80s. But you've got to be consistent, because if you let the muscle go, other systems start to follow. You stop walking as much, and your cardiovascular health declines. You become more sedentary, and your mental clarity fades. You don't challenge your body, and your immune system weakens. It's all connected, and it all starts with muscle. That's why this one area, muscle preservation and muscle growth, isn't optional. It's essential. It's the base of the pyramid. You build from there. And if you're someone who's already noticed a little weakness, or you're starting to feel slower, or you've lost some weight that you didn't mean to, understand that those are early signs. Not signs of defeat, but signs that it's time to act, time to intervene, time to build. And building doesn't mean lifting heavy weights in a gym with music blasting and mirrors everywhere. It can mean bodyweight exercises at home. It can mean using resistance bands or doing chair squats. It can mean walking a little faster, standing up from a chair without using your hands, carrying a few extra items in your grocery bag with intention. It can mean choosing protein-rich foods that stimulate muscle repair. Every small action is a message to your body that muscle is still needed, and when your body hears that message, it responds. We've been trained to think that aging is synonymous with decline, with fragility, with limitation. But in reality, aging is just a shift in what the body needs in order to stay strong. The potential is still there. You don't lose it, you just have to reach for it more deliberately. And when you do, when you begin to prioritize muscle, you unlock a version of yourself that feels more capable, more energetic, and more alive. That's the version you owe it to yourself to become. Because once you feel what it's like to move through life with strength again, you'll wonder why you ever settled for anything less. Now let's talk about something incredibly simple, so simple in fact that most people overlook it entirely. One food, one daily habit. That's all it takes to start shifting your body in the right direction. You don't need supplements with complicated names. You don't need to spend hours researching exotic superfoods. And you don't need a kitchen full of expensive powders and potions. The answer is much more accessible. In fact, it's likely already in your fridge. I'm talking about whole high-leucine protein sources specifically, foods like eggs. See, there's a reason why this one food, eggs, is getting so much attention when it comes to reversing muscle loss in older adults. It's not just about the protein content. It's about the quality of that protein. Not all proteins are created equal. Some are better at triggering muscle growth, and the key to that lies in something called leucine, an essential amino acid that serves as the ignition switch for muscle protein synthesis. Think of leucine as the spark plug. You can have all the raw materials, protein, energy, exercise, but without the spark, the engine won't start. And eggs, they're packed with it. A couple of eggs in the morning can deliver enough leucine to flip that muscle building switch into the on position. That's powerful. Now what's important to understand is that older adults don't respond to protein in the same way younger people do. The process becomes less efficient over time. It takes more of a signal to get the same response. That's why many seniors are actually undereating protein without even realizing it. You might think a slice of toast and a cup of tea is a decent breakfast, but to your muscles that's silence. No stimulation, no reason to grow. On the other hand, a meal with high leucine protein, like eggs, Greek yogurt, or cottage cheese, sends a very different message. It says maintain this muscle, repair this tissue, keep the engine running, and this isn't just theory. The science backs it up over and over again. Clinical studies show that older adults who consume leucine-rich protein sources, especially in the morning and after light exercise, can reverse muscle loss and actually gain lean mass even in their 70s and beyond. It's not wishful thinking, it's biology in action. Your body is waiting for the right input, and when it gets it, the results can be remarkable. Think about how small that change really is. One food, one adjustment to your morning routine. Instead of skipping breakfast or grabbing something full of sugar and empty carbs, you choose something intentional. You make your first meal of the day a statement, one that tells your body you're not done, that you're still building, that you still care about your strength, your balance, your resilience, because the food you eat doesn't just fill your stomach, it sends signals. And the most powerful signal you can send, especially after 60, is that muscle is still needed. Now let's clear something up. People often get nervous about eggs. They've heard decades of mixed messages: cholesterol, heart health, confusion around dietary fats. But the most current and rigorous nutritional research tells a different story. For most people, eggs are not only safe, they're one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Protein, healthy fats, B vitamins, choline, antioxidants, all in one compact, affordable package. You're not just supporting muscle, you're supporting brain health, hormone balance, and even eye health at the same time. But this isn't only about eggs, it's about a mindset shift. It's about looking at food not just as calories, but as instructions. When you're over 60, every bite counts more. You're not just eating to feel full. You're eating to preserve tissue, maintain energy, keep your independence. The sooner we start thinking that way, the sooner we see results. And when you make protein-rich foods a consistent part of your diet, eggs in the morning, a piece of grilled chicken or tofu at lunch, maybe a small portion of fish at dinner, you start stacking odds in your favor, and these little wins add up quickly. So yes, the solution can start with one food. Something as simple as eating 2 eggs in the morning can begin a cascade of changes that ripple through your body. More energy, more stability, faster recovery, fewer falls, sharper thinking. You feel better not because you added something magical, but because you gave your body what it's been asking for all along. And when you realize that a single, accessible change can tip the scale back in your direction, it becomes impossible to ignore. Because when the goal is longevity, strength, and independence, that one food becomes more than just breakfast. It becomes the beginning of your comeback. We often focus so much on what to eat that we completely overlook something just as important: when to eat it. Timing matters, especially when it comes to preserving and building muscle after 60. And the reality is, most people miss this step entirely. They may be eating decent foods, they might even be hitting their protein targets, but if they're doing it at the wrong time or without pairing it with the right action, their body just doesn't respond the way it could. Your body isn't just passively absorbing nutrients throughout the day. It's constantly taking in cues from your environment. Movement, light, sleep, and yes, meals. Every one of these sends a signal to your internal systems. So when we talk about reversing muscle loss in seniors, the real breakthrough doesn't just come from eating more protein. It comes from pairing that protein with the right moment, specifically after light movement or exercise. That's when your body is most ready to receive it. Here's why this matters. After you move, especially if you've done any form of resistance like walking uphill, doing bodyweight squats, or even just climbing stairs, your muscles become sensitized. They're more responsive to nutrients, especially amino acids like leucine. In this short post-exercise window, your body essentially says, okay, I'm ready, I need to repair, I need to grow. That's your golden opportunity. If you eat a protein-rich meal with high leucine content during that window, ideally within 30 to 60 minutes, you amplify the muscle building response significantly. It's like hitting a switch that tells your body, keep this muscle, reinforce it, make it stronger. But if you miss that window, the signal gets weaker. That doesn't mean your meal is wasted, but it means the same food that could have built muscle now just becomes maintenance, or worse, gets stored as energy your body doesn't need. And the older you get, the more sensitive your system becomes to this kind of coordination. The difference between doing it right and doing it randomly becomes wider. Now here's the powerful part. You don't need a gym membership or a fancy workout routine to take advantage of this. Movement can be simple. A 10-minute brisk walk, some step-ups on your stairs, or even standing up and sitting down from a chair 10 times. Those are signals. They count. And if you follow that up with a couple of eggs, a protein shake, or a meal rich in high-quality protein, now you're talking synergy. Now you're telling your body, I moved, now here's the fuel. Do something with it. It's easy to underestimate just how much impact that simple routine can have. Wake up, move for 10 or 15 minutes, and follow it with protein. That alone can kickstart muscle protein synthesis in the morning when your body is primed for recovery and growth. Do that consistently, and you begin reversing the slow decline that happens when movement and nutrition drift apart. Instead, they become a team. Timing also plays a role throughout the day. Spacing your protein intake out evenly rather than loading it all at dinner has been shown to improve muscle retention in older adults. Many seniors skip breakfast, have a light lunch, and then a large meal at night. That's not ideal. Your body responds better when protein is evenly distributed, about 25 to 30 grams at each meal. That keeps the muscle building signal active all day, rather than going silent for hours at a time. Again, it's not just about what you're eating. It's about when and how often you're giving your body those cues. There's also a mental shift that happens when you start treating your meals and movement as connected, rather than isolated. You begin to see your routine as a system, each part feeding into the next. Movement prepares the body, food repairs it. The more you repeat that cycle, the more efficient and adaptive your body becomes, even as you age. And that matters because aging isn't just about what's happening on the outside. It's about how well your internal systems are communicating. Are your muscles still responsive to food? Are your hormones in sync with your sleep and energy? Is your metabolism still flexible and adaptive? These are all tied into that loop between action and nourishment. You can't separate them if you want real results. It's empowering when you realize that your body still responds powerfully to small, well-timed signals. That even after 60, the pathways are still open, you just have to send the message clearly. And there's no better time to start than now. No better way to begin than by moving your body and fueling it with purpose. Because once your body gets used to that rhythm, it starts to trust you again, and that's when everything begins to change. When it comes to reversing muscle loss after 60, people often get stuck in this all or nothing mindset. They think if they can't go to the gym 5 days a week or follow some complicated diet, then it's not worth even trying. But that belief couldn't be more wrong. The real magic doesn't come from extremes, it comes from consistency. From small, deliberate actions stacked together day after day. Those are the moments that quietly, but powerfully, build your future health. One of the most overlooked truths about the human body is how responsive it still is, even in later years, to small positive habits. You don't have to make huge changes overnight. You don't have to overwhelm yourself. In fact, the simpler your routine is, the more likely it is to stick. And when it sticks, that's when results show up. That's when energy starts coming back, when balance improves, when stairs stop feeling like a challenge, and when your body starts feeling like your own again. Start with the basics, a daily walk. Just 10 to 20 minutes, not a marathon, just movement. Walking gets blood flowing, activates your leg muscles, boosts your mood, and even wakes up your metabolism. And when you make that walk intentional, when you're conscious of your posture, of how your feet land, of the rhythm of your breath, it becomes more than just exercise. It becomes a message to your body. Stay strong, stay awake, stay alive. Then pair that walk with something even simpler: hydration. So many people underestimate how critical water is for muscle function, especially as we age. Your muscles are made up of roughly 75% water. If you're even slightly dehydrated, muscle performance and repair drop off, and older adults often lose their natural thirst response, which means you have to be more intentional about it. A couple of glasses in the morning, more throughout the day, and especially after any physical activity. It's a small habit, but it supports every other part of your body's healing and growth process. Next, consider adding just a few minutes of basic resistance exercises. You don't need weights. You can use your body. Chair squats, wall push-ups, toe raises, movements that use your own weight to challenge the muscles you already have. Even 5 to 10 minutes a day makes a difference. The beauty is, your body doesn't know whether you're in a gym or your living room. It just knows whether it's being challenged. And that challenge is what triggers the repair, the adaptation, the growth. Now, let's talk about rest. It's easy to get caught up in doing. But muscle isn't built during the workout. It's built during recovery. That's when your body repairs the micro tears in your muscle fibers, when it processes the nutrients you gave it, when it strengthens what you activated. And sleep is a critical piece of that. Deep sleep is when growth hormone is released, one of the key players in muscle regeneration. If you're skipping rest, you're short-circuiting the entire process. A consistent bedtime, cutting out screens before bed, and limiting caffeine late in the day, those are lifestyle shifts that support recovery and performance. And of course, none of this works without nourishment. You've heard me say it already, but I'll say it again. Food isn't just fuel, it's information. Every bite you take tells your body what to do. High protein, leucine, rich foods like eggs, yogurt, lean meats, legumes, those are your allies. Spread them throughout your day, especially after movement, and you're reinforcing the message that muscle is a priority. You're not just maintaining, you're building. Now here's the deeper layer that people often overlook. These small actions don't just improve your body, they build your mindset. When you start taking care of yourself consistently, you begin to shift how you see yourself. You go from passive to active, from fragile to capable. You start showing up for yourself every day, even if it's just a few minutes at a time. And that self-respect, that self-discipline, it spills into everything else. You eat better because you moved. You sleep better because you ate well. You feel better because you hydrated and got sunlight and stayed present during your walk. It's all connected. That's the real win, not just bigger muscles, but a deeper connection to your own health. A sense of control, a rhythm, a belief that you're still in the driver's seat even now, maybe especially now. Because what we're really talking about isn't just reversing muscle loss. It's reversing that slow fade that happens when we stop engaging with life. And the way you do that, day by day, is with a simple, doable, repeatable routine, a rhythm that tells your body, I'm still here. I'm still building. I'm not done yet. One of the most dangerous beliefs we adopt as we age is the idea that it's too late to change. That somehow, after 60, the window has closed. That progress belongs to the young, and all that's left for us is to manage decline. But I want to challenge that right now because it's not true. The science doesn't support it. The evidence doesn't support it. And more importantly, your body doesn't support it either, because the truth is, your body still responds. It still adapts, it still listens. You just have to send the right signals, and believe that it's worth sending them. I've seen it happen again and again. Someone in their late 60s or early 70s decides to start walking every morning. They add a few basic strength movements into their routine. They tweak their nutrition, getting more protein into their meals. At first, nothing seems to change, but then a few weeks go by and something shifts. The steps feel lighter. The energy starts coming back, the aches begin to fade, the confidence returns, and maybe for the first time in years, they realize that aging doesn't have to mean disappearing. It can mean re-emerging. That's not a fantasy. That's physiology. Your muscles don't have an age limit on them. Yes, they may have slowed down a bit. Yes, the process is more deliberate, but the mechanism for growth is still intact. Muscle protein synthesis still happens, strength can still improve, balance can still be rebuilt. These things are not out of reach, they're just waiting for you to reach for them. We've been conditioned to think of age as a wall, something we hit and then bounce off of, over and over, until we eventually stop trying. But what if age is actually just a transition point? What if it's a moment that requires a new level of awareness, not surrender? Because what I've seen in older adults who reclaim their strength is not just physical improvement, it's a reawakening. There's a shift in how they carry themselves, in how they speak, in how they approach each day. They start making plans again. They start dreaming again. They stop counting themselves out, and it all begins with the choice to act. Not perfectly, not all at once, but with intention, because even the smallest actions compound. You walk a little more, and your endurance improves. You eat better, and your energy rises. You strengthen your muscles, and suddenly you're not worried about slipping in the shower or losing your balance on the stairs. That's not just convenience, that's freedom. We spend so much of our lives accumulating experiences, responsibilities, relationships. But as we get older, there's this temptation to start shrinking. To pull back, to reduce, but you weren't meant to shrink. You were meant to expand, you were meant to evolve. And your body, even now, still has that capacity within it. If you stop feeding it the idea that it's too late, you'll be amazed at how it responds. Because here's something not enough people say. Aging is not your fault, but surrendering to decline is a decision. One that gets made, consciously or unconsciously, every single day, when you skip the walk, when you tell yourself you're too old to try something new, when you believe the lie that effort is wasted past a certain point, but you can make a different decision. One that's rooted in science, in truth, and in self-respect. A decision to move, to fuel, to grow. Because your future deserves more than just maintenance. It deserves momentum, and maybe that's the biggest shift of all. Not just knowing that your body can change, but believing that you're still worthy of that change. That you're still capable, that you're still here. Because once you understand that age is not a barrier, but a signal, a reminder to take action with greater care, greater precision, and greater purpose, you stop seeing time as something working against you. You start seeing it as something you can work with. So no, you're not too old, it's not too late. The past may have led you here, but what happens next is entirely up to you.